Welcome to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. Real conversations with entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders who refuse to settle. This isn't about overnight success. It's about the decisions, discipline, setbacks, and standards that shape extraordinary results. If you're building something that matters, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Relentless Pursuit with Marjorie Dudley. I am really excited today for our guest, Mark Brown. He is a husband, father, brother, uncle, servant, guide, and he's a certified speaking professional and, get this, the world champion of public speaking. Welcome to the show, Mark.
It is my pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. I've always enjoyed our conversations, and I think a lot of that is because you have an especially incredible story about your journey to becoming the world champion of public speaking and your travels, your global travels along the way. So tell us about your background. Tell us how you got into this crazy world of speaking.
I appreciate it. The crazy world of speaking, that's perspective, I guess. But to go back, to give you background, I really have to go back. For those who are listening closely, they will detect that I'm not Georgia born. I live in central Georgia now. I'm not Georgia born. I was born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica. And when I was about to leave high school, as 18 years old, my father had made a decision to relocate and start brand new in the land of opportunity. So, pretty simply put, he sent me to New York from Jamaica at 18, and I was equipped, Marjorie, with a high school diploma, 2 suitcases of clothing, and $40 US in my pocket. And I went to live with my aunt, who was divorced, had 2 small kids, living in an apartment in the Bronx, New York. Forget about it, and New Yorkers, a very bad New York accent. But I went to live in New York, and my journey in the USA started from there. Along the way, I got married to my wife, Andrea. We're now married 44 years. And in my career of work
Congrats.
took me into computer programming, and I went to work at Reader's Digest, found Toastmasters there, and that began my journey of public speaking. In the Toastmasters
Reader's
meeting,
Digest.
Reader's Digest in Pleasantville, New York.
Those small little books. Some of our younger listeners may not even know what that is, but I remember there was usually one on the back, in the bathroom.
Yep.
There was one maybe on the end table next to the
Yes.
sofa.
The
What
month.
did you do for Reader's
Well,
Digest?
I was what's called back then a mainframe computer analyst programmer, technical. So I had no connection to public speaking. However, I did enjoy the Reader's Digest magazine because I am the son of an educator who taught me very early on, reading makes the ready man. I became a word nerd. I'd always read the articles including "It pays to enrich your word power, to build your vocabulary." I grew up loving words. But I went to work at Reader's Digest in computer programming, but someone told me, "Hey, Mark, we have a Toastmasters club here. You ought to join." Immediately, I was intrigued because a couple years earlier, one of my uncles in Jamaica had come to New York to visit. He was wearing a Toastmasters pin, and he explained the Toastmasters program to me. And I thought, oh, my uncle does that. I should try it. And here's a kicker. My uncle, the late Supreme Court Justice Courtney Orr, was the first Toastmaster in the island of Jamaica. He brought the program there
Wow.
in 84. I went to my first meeting on December 10th, 1992. For those doing the math, that's close to 34 years ago. I went, I was intimidated by all the speakers there, but I figured I'd stay, and I was a guest for about 4 months before I finally joined. And here's why that's weird, Marjorie. Reader's Digest paid the dues for employees. I could have joined at any time, but I didn't know I could do it until I said, you know what, I'm going to commit to this. And that began the journey to the Toastmasters International World Championship of Public Speaking.
That's incredible. And I love that there was that commitment piece
Yeah.
first. Sometimes we have to actually commit first
Indeed.
before the magic happens. Actually, probably all of the time, or a lot of the time, we have to commit first before the magic.
But the truth is, no relentless pursuit begins until you make a commitment. And I didn't when I joined Toastmasters in 1993, I didn't really understand the importance or the impact of what's called the International Speech Contest, because I had seen a magazine with the winners of the World Championship. I've been in for a few months. I saw Otis Williams Jr., 93 world champion. Dana Lamond, the late Dana Lamond, 92 world champion. On the magazine cover, I thought, man, these guys are awesome. I could never do what those guys do. And I had no inkling that a few months later, I'd be on a journey to that particular contest. Because, see, Toastmasters has contests with your meetings. And for those who are unfamiliar, very simply, Toastmasters is the world's largest nonprofit organization that's committed to helping individuals from all walk of life to become better communicators, better leaders, better listeners, and better thinkers. It's very inexpensive, maybe $200 a year to be a member. So I joined. My company paid for it. And as going along the way, you have projects to learn to become a better speaker. And I was doing all of that. I was aware of contests, but didn't understand the importance of contests until the spring of 1994, when I entered my first contest by accident to replace someone on 2 hours' notice. Now, if anyone here has ever
Wow.
yeah, exactly, to replace someone on 2 hours' notice, unprepared, mind you, but I made the commitment to do it, not knowing
Yep.
what I was in for, Marjorie. And again, individuals hear me. You think about relentless pursuit. Sometimes that commitment that you make, you have no idea what lies ahead. And as the journey unfolds, you see the magnitude of it. It's wise to continue that relentless pursuit to see where the journey leads you. And as I said, okay, I'll do the contest, and I won my club contest, and I was told, great, you must now go to area. Area, what's that? Next level. When? Tonight. What? I didn't know going in the extent of the journey. But I'm gonna say here, Marjorie, that we should not let incomplete knowledge deter us from pursuing something. Most of us
I
pursue
love
a goal.
that.
We don't know what the journey is going to hold, do we, Marjorie? We
You have to start without, you have to start, you have to commit without having the whole picture, because you you almost never do have the whole picture.
And sadly, I know in your coaching practice, you've probably just seen people do this. They are afraid to take the next step because they want to know what lies ahead. But there is a beauty in the journey with not knowing. It makes the pursuit that much more intriguing. It can make it scary, but it can also make it exciting. And I had no idea what lay ahead. I didn't realize it was a 6-level contest over the course of 8 months. I did not understand that. I had to go from club to area to division to district. And the interesting thing is this, for those who are uninitiated, the Toastmasters International Speech Contest consists of a speaker giving a 5 to 7 minute speech on a topic of their choosing, using all the skills they've learned as a presenter. And in the contest, I could give the same speech for the first 4 levels. Great. Once you win the 4th level, you must now change your speech for the 5th level, which was then called the regional semifinal. Had to do a new speech. Did that in Canada. And then once you win that, I won. Didn't know what I was doing. I was told, Mark, you're now qualified to compete in the World Championship of Public Speaking. What? And by the way, you need to write a 3rd speech. Okay. And August of 94, I end up on the world stage at the World Championship. And Marjorie, I really was uninitiated. I did not know what I was doing. I stumbled my way through this journey. I found myself
Incredible.
one of 9 finalists. I didn't place 3rd. I didn't place 2nd. I didn't win. I was one of those contestants who made the contest necessary. I was an also ran. But something else happened that day that changed the trajectory of my life. I met a man named David Brooks. He was a 1990 world champion. And he came to me during a tender family moment. My 7-year-old son was in my lap crying. I had not won the contest. And David said, please forgive the interruption. I may not see you again, but you have potential. If I can help you, please give me a call. Here's my card. Back in the business cards days in 1994, and away he went.
Mhm.
A world champion told me I had potential. That gave me the impetus to continue the pursuit of this goal. I thought I lost, okay, maybe I'll try again next year. But having someone beside, not behind me, but beside me who encouraged me, inspired that relentless pursuit of that Toastmasters World Championship. And for those who are watching and listening, I want to invite you to think about those who are walking alongside you right now, who have been poking you, pushing you, prodding you. When you doubt yourself, they see that you can achieve more if you're willing to accept their support and pursue that goal relentlessly, because you never know what the result will be when you pursue that goal with the right support beside and behind you.
I love that story. Just gives me so much. It's so eye-opening into both the power of seeing someone not where they are, but where their potential is, where they could be, and what it does to us as humans when we are given, when someone breathes that into us. And that's just so powerful. And that's something everybody could do. And I would argue everybody needs, and all successful people have a moment in their life that they can credit to someone just breathing a little more life and seeing their potential in them. That's really incredible.
When we have opportunities ourselves through our lives to reach down and reach across the island, hold on somebody's hand and say, I see something there that maybe you don't see in yourself. And trust me, I did not see myself as a speaker. But then David Brooks wrote me a letter. To you young folk, a letter is on a piece of paper written by hand with a thing called a pen. And in his letter to me, David Brooks said, I'll never forget this. He said, although our contact thus far has been limited to only a few brief exchanges, your words and manner lead me to believe that you are a talented speaker and one with whom I would be honored to confer. Wow. After I closed my dictionary, I realized he had said, Mark, you're talented, and I'd be honored to work with you. What? I remember when I got home the day after the contest, I got home with this card in my hand. I put my bags down, I picked up my phone, and I dialed the number in Austin, Texas for David Brooks. Hello, David? Yes. It's Mark Brown. Do you know who I am? I said, Mark, I met you yesterday. I know who you are. I said, David, you promised to help, will you? And he simply said yes. And I want to pause for a second, Marjorie, and point out in our relentless pursuit of our goals, there's always somebody who will say yes. We may not find them right away, but there's always somebody who will say, yes, I will help you. Yes, I will support you. And for me, the greatest support I get was from my family. They were behind me and beside me the whole way. And David Brooks came along in a mentorship role, in a coaching role, in a guide's role. And I know, Marjorie, in your career as well, you have served as guide for so many people as they try to excel in their own businesses. So you understand what this is like. And you know you can really appreciate this. But he offered and I said yes. There is one more part to the story, Marjorie, that to me kind of saddens me. Because at the finals, there are 9 speakers. Only one wins. So therefore, there are 8 others who do not get the first place trophy. I learned that David Brooks made a similar offer to other finalists who were in the contest that day. I was the only one who said yes.
Yes is so important. And it can't just be a yes. Yes, it has to be a yes with action behind it. And that's really what you did.
Yes.
You picked up the phone, you called him, and even though he had offered, you asked. And I think a couple things get in the way of people. A lot of people say yes in their mind, but a couple things get in the way of people really saying yes and meaning them. And one of them is that first action step. But the other is that willingness to ask for help. Even though he had offered it, to some extent, you still had to reach out and ask for it back in order to receive it. And all too often, I see people's dreams dying on the vine when they're either afraid to take action or afraid to ask for help. So I love this story that it was your yes plus action that led to the success of it all.
You might find it very interesting. I had a conversation with a friend this morning, and I used the line, "There is no shame in asking for help when you need it." I knew I was not at their standard. I was green. I stumbled my way to the world championship. And I made that statement. I also pointed out that there are individuals who have told me in my coaching and guidance practice, yeah, I'll give you a call on Friday. We're going to work on this. And you get that feeling, they're not going to call. They're not going to call. And they don't. And that's fine. Because then I realize who's serious and who's willing to work with me. I picked up the phone. I made that call. I spoke with David. I said yes. And he fulfilled his promise to me to guide me through a process of growth. And for 1 year, over the course of a year, he became a long distance mentor by phone and fax. Now, for millennials, a fax machine is a
Fax.
device that looks never. Just ask Siri or Claude or ChatGPT or version 5.5 or even ask Gemini. Who knows? The point being, it was back then. But technically, it was different. I had to call him from Mount Vernon, New York, to Austin, Texas. 1 hour
Long
time
distance.
1 hour time difference.
Long distance rates may apply.
And I was using my working after hours at Reader's Digest. I would literally go on my desktop cathode ray tube CRT and use WordPerfect software to write a script. I would go to the copy room. I would get the copies made, and I would then fax them to him. I got a fax machine at my house, so I could fax them from my house. But it was a commitment that I made to myself, but also to him, because he in turn made a commitment to me, being a husband and a father himself, but he made a commitment. So here's one of the cool things. Please catch this. When your relentless pursuit is shared by someone who's on your side, who is a guide, who is an advocate, who is a mentor, who is a supporter, you are not pursuing this goal on your own. And when you win, they win too.
It's so true. It is so true. Anybody in the coaching space, like I am, feels that when our clients have a success, and you as well, you're just so excited to see them accomplish that goal, that in some cases it can be as exciting and occasionally even more exciting than some of your own goals
Yes,
to,
you're
to,
like,
to be
yes.
on the sidelines and
You're cheering. Yeah, you're
yes.
cheering. Yes, 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 yes. And what was beautiful, I knew I entered the contest in '95. One more chance. That was 31 years ago. So I went through the whole process: the club, the area, division, the district, new speech, the semifinal, new speech. I got to the final, and I was preparing the speech I had planned to give the previous October. If I get to the World Championship in August of 1995, I'm going to talk about integrity. I've got the idea in my head. I'm going to write this amazing speech. And I wrote it, I heard it, and I did not like it. At one point, I wrote David a note, which I faxed to him, and I said, "This is not my best work. You, my audience, my family, and my God deserve the best, and this is not it." And so, with about, 19, 20 days before the contest, I tossed my speech out and began to write something different, which I don't highly recommend, because I've been following the contest since 1994 for 33 years, and there are individuals who prepare their speeches. Now they have to give 2, not 3 speeches, but they prepare them months in advance. They rehearse, they practice, they test them. They use video calls, which didn't exist back in 1995. They do Zoom calls, and they do group Google Meets and all that, and group Teams calls. None of that was available. And with 20 days to go, my family, my wife, my 3 children, one of whom was only 8.5 months old, and my coach were the only ones who saw the speech I worked on that I delivered that day in August of 1995. And it was born of a message for my children that I thought was a message for the world. And I delivered that speech August 18, 1995, and was declared the winner of the 1995 World Championship of Public Speaking. A pursuit of a goal was achieved, But Marjorie and friends, that was only the beginning of a broader and more challenging journey ahead. I enjoyed it, but it was only the beginning.
Well, and I want to point out there are times that we must trust our intuition to pivot. And it can sometimes be confused with quitting, which is why I think a lot of folks resist pivoting. It's like, oh, I got to stay the course. I was taught to never quit, to never give up. And that is true, but we have to hold both of those opposites together at the same time. And a pivot, when we know it's not our best work, when
Yes.
we know the data, the results, the feedback is showing that this thing is going off a cliff, or this isn't going in the direction we need it to be going. So I applaud your intuition, listening to that intuition, and I presume working double time to
Yes.
get a new speech up and ready to essentially catch up with the same launch date
Yeah. Yeah.
for the next event.
Well, your point is very valid, Marge, because there are individuals who say, you know what? I'm here. I'm not going to deviate. I've put too much in. I've invested too much time, too much effort, too much blood, sweat, and tears. I'm going to
Sunk
stay the
costs.
course. Yeah. But you know what? I had to face the fact that this was, again, I had to write it down. I wrote it, I sent it, I received it. This is not my best work. My coach, my family, my audience, and my God deserve better. And the better was there. And over 20 days, we dug up an old speech. We totally worked it. We revamped it. I delivered it. And I was told by those who were present, it was a clear win. The only question was, who's going to be placed second? I'm honored to hear that. But they have to understand what the pursuit meant. Sacrifice of time and effort. The doubt kicks in sometimes. But I was passionate about the message I was delivering. And for anyone who is mildly curious, you can go to YouTube and look up Mark Brown 1995 World Championship speech. You will see it there. It's called A Second Chance. My friends tease me and say, that's the colorized remastered version because it was, but the truth is, I know it was the previous millennium, Marjorie, but I do have the VHS videotape to prove I was there.
VHS. We're talking.
Yeah, I know.
We're giving our younger viewers a lot of education
That's
today.
it.
Go back to what you said about the doubt kicking in, because imposter syndrome, doubt, second guessing ourselves, that can be often part of the journey. And in fact, when it's not, sometimes hubris can override and blind us to potential challenges. So it can serve us. But how do you face doubt? How do you overcome it? How do you see past it and get past it in situations, whether it's speaking or anything else, building your coaching practice and everything in between?
That's a brilliant question. And that's where I have come to appreciate collaboration. I've come to appreciate listening to the voices that I trust. Like my wife, Andrea. We're married now 44 years. It's not my fault I look this good. I blame her for that. I'm teasing. 44 years
I
of
love it.
marriage. We have three wonderful brats. I mean, children who are not children. They're all in their 30s and 40s now. But they have been supportive of me from day one. And I'm going to tell you, the day I won the contest in 94, to answer your question, how powerful that support is. The day I won the contest, I'm on the stage. There's 1,800 people there in San Diego. They're applauding. My family comes on stage. I give a trophy. We do photo op, and my daughter presses a greeting card and an envelope in my pocket. I put it in my coat pocket. I can't handle that right now. You know, it's fine. I gotta shake hands and all that. Great. An hour and a half later in the hotel room, I'm going to go to the pool, and I find that the card is in my pocket. I pull the envelope. It is sealed. It has Daddy on the envelope. I open it up, and the card basically said, "Congratulations, Daddy. We knew you could do it." They all signed it. Andreen, who was the eldest, he signed it. Joel, my second, signed. And David, who was 8.5 months old, he scribbled on it. I was so excited. I said, "Honey, look what the kids did. They got this card for me." She says, "Baby, there's a story there. Listen to it." "But honey, they gave me the card." She said, "Honey, shut up and listen." I said, "Okay." Your kids were looking for that card. They found the right card for you. They chose it, they bought it, they paid for it with your money. They signed it, put it in the envelope, and they sealed the envelope before we left New York to come to California, because that's how much your kids believe in you. So when I say doubt can kick in, I'd be in my living room with my kids and my wife working on the speech, and my 11-year-old would say, Daddy, there's no humor in your speech. Make it more funny. I'm like, what? Daddy, you
Good
need
coach.
11 years old, Daddy, you need more humor. But when I have doubts, my family is always my first line of support. And my mentor, David Brooks, world champion, whom I call to this day the master mentor, was always there for me. Choose wisely who's in your inner circle, because when you are at your lowest, they're the ones who will hold you up, who will lift you up, and who will help you get through whatever it is you face. That for me was the biggest source of support. And when they lift me, my confidence is rebuilt. And the other way to regain confidence is to rehearse the successes and relive the wins. Because it's easy to say, this is not going well, that won't work. But if I rehearse my successes and relive some of the wins, I can be inspired by that as well.
There's a lot to unpack there. So I want to go through those because I think there's a few highlights that even if someone isn't a public speaker, they can apply them into their business
Yes.
today. And one of those, the first one of really leaning into your family and your support system.
Yes.
It's so important we have these confidence anchors. And confidence anchors can come from people. They can come from past wins. They can come from things that we've done before. But having something that we can go to emotionally in our mind and ensure that we really kind of override that reptile brain. You know, the doubt comes from that fight or flight, that fear response, and really, you know, go into who are the people lifting us up? Who are the people that are believing in us? What are the things before that actually give me the confidence anchor that I can do that? So anybody can do that. Anybody can find confidence anchors in their life, even if they don't have wonderful, amazing kids coaching them on humor in their speeches.
Yeah, right?
And I also I love the reliving the wins and practicing the successes. We now know how powerful visualization is, and sometimes the default can be to relive the mistakes
Yeah.
and to relive the losses. And sometimes that can be a little bit subconscious. I know I have to catch myself intentionally when I do that. I have that a natural tendency to replay something that went wrong and just go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. And then that loops in my brain, and that's the exact opposite of what you're saying. Now, I still think it's important in a lot of cases to maybe debrief when something didn't go well. If you didn't win, you know, what are the things I can tighten up? What are the things that I can do better next time? Where maybe wasn't I as practiced and rehearsed as I could have been? So debriefing to do a postmortem and learn some lessons, that's really important. But replay, be intentional about replaying those wins and those successes and really tap into that, the power of visualization. And then of course the third point you said is just to practice. I deal with a lot of salespeople, a lot of leaders, and we talk about how, you know, if you grow up an athlete or a dancer or a musician, you understand practice as it pertains to that thing, right? My son does karate, my daughter does dance. They have practice before tournaments or before recitals. But then we get into the career of sales or frankly, maybe a lot of other careers. And all of a sudden we've got it. And we forget, no, that's still something you need to practice on the regular as well.
Exactly.
So I love that you took the practicing so seriously. Those are amazing lessons, again, regardless of what industry people are in, that we can apply to anything and everything we want excellence in.
I agree. We talk about legal practice and medical practices, but what are our best practices? What can we improve on? What do we do well that we can improve on? So if we look at what could use some support, yes. And very often we have our clients, you know this, review a video they did. And almost invariably they go, well, I didn't do this, I forgot to do that, I moved too fast. I always say, pause. Do yourself a favor. When you review your video, When you do any kind of appraisal of yourself or a team member, begin with a win. Begin with a win. What went well? And very often, what happens is when you realize and you look for what went well first, you might find you had more that went well than the three or four that you focus on that have now consumed your mind. I've got to fix this. I've got to fix this. But don't you forget, did you hear when the audience applauded for that line that you didn't think we were going to applaud for? They're telling you something. They're telling you that was good. They're telling you that was worthwhile. When they came and told you, I never thought about that. Thanks for that tip, Marjorie. I really appreciate that. Receive that and say, that was a win. That did go well. But very often in our quest for excellence, in our pursuit, right, we want to get everything right. But please, friends, do not discount what you have done well. Build on what needs improvement, but stay strong and stay committed. And I will say, I'll add one more point about the rehearsal. We can be captivated by the new, by the flashy, by what's next, by the next version, this 5.9. We can be captivated by that. But we have within ourselves foundational characteristics, values, belief systems, processes, and practices that have anchored us for years. Let's not lose that foundation. Let's lean into that while embracing what is new, but hold on to the foundation that keeps you who you are, that keeps you strong, and that
Right.
keeps you on that path of relentless pursuit.
I love that. I want to have you talk a little bit about the power of an outside perspective because one, you provide that for people, and obviously two, you've received a lot of that. But I want to share a quick story. I read this article a while back about surgeons, and several of them had hired, we'll call them coaches, but they were non-medical, non-surgical people that they had personally hired to come into the OR with them and just observe. And what had happened with this outside perspective is they didn't have the preconceived medical
Right.
biases, and they were able to ask questions. And by asking questions, it opened up a lot of processes that could be tweaked, and medical error went down. And they had a lot of other benefits. The patient satisfaction went up. And so there's a lot of data. That story just always blows my mind because in that case, it wasn't someone exactly in the field
Right.
with them. It was someone that really, truly was able to see things with absolutely fresh eyes. I think that's the lesson. Someone seeing something with fresh eyes, because we can get in our own lane and we can get in a rut and we can think something's great, but be missing certain things. And so by having that fresh perspective, they were able to completely revamp, not change the important things, but revamp a lot of the processes to really make massive improvements in the surgical team in that hospital. So how has an outside perspective played a role in what you now do for other people, but also what helped you along the way?
It's interesting, we often hear the line is, you can't see the forest for the trees, or I'm too close to it.
Mm-hmm.
But someone with a different perspective sees through a different lens, and very often they see from a different angle than the one that we see from. And for me, having not only David Brooks as a coach, I had my family who are not speakers or presenters, but they help me to see the audience perspective of what's happening. These are my family, and I had other coaches who saw things from a performance standpoint, from a stagecraft standpoint, that I could see myself trying to encompass the stagecraft, the language, the words, the facial, the movement, all of that. And I know I said family several times today, but it really epitomized what you said. My kids were 11 and 9 and 8 months. My wife, by no means a professional speaker, but their perspective helped me to see what the audience saw, helped me to understand what they were dealing with in a way that, oh, I hadn't thought about that before. Is that what you saw? My daughter was 11, and she could see I lacked humor to make the speech the experience I intended for the audience. So please don't discount the value of those who may not be in your lane.
Fresh
Fresh
eyes.
eyes can make a big difference, yes.
Even if they're fresh eyes from an 11-year-old, we like to say that there's a little element of truth in every piece of feedback.
It's a
And
lot.
Yes. And sometimes you might get feedback that it can be easy to want to rebuff, because when we've built something, when we own it, when it's personal to us, we hold on to every word. We hang on every word of that, but there's an element of truth in every piece of feedback. What I'd like to have you share is, now you have speaking as a business. You coach speakers and you develop them. But talk to me about you taking this world championship, and at what point did you turn it into a business? At what point did that become another way for you to serve people and guide them?
That's an interesting story in itself, because began to work for a division of Reader's Digest, giving talks to students in schools across North
Okay.
America. And that was a wonderful job, full-time job. I was able to travel across the country, able to share to over 1 million kids in the last several years. But that position was eliminated 11 years
Mm.
ago. That changed, and I'm like, okay, I have to adjust. So I had to pivot one more time, and then I began coaching for I had been coaching for a while, different places, different people, but that became a better opportunity for me to start coaching. And I've been doing it more and more. I also was doing keynotes. I got involved with a company you're very familiar with, Southwestern. I was consulting there, doing
Mm.
keynotes and so on. And then the pandemic hit, and the pandemic certainly changed quite a bit for me. And one of my friends, who's a business guru, said, "Listen, what else can you do? You're coaching. Double down on your coaching," he said. I said, "Okay, really?" Hang out a shingle was the line. He said, "Hang out a shingle." I said, "Okay, hang out a shingle. All right." And I began coaching more. And of course, Toastmasters came to me, other speakers came to me. And I'm a member of the National Speakers Association and the Georgia chapter. And while I was there, they acknowledged my experience, and I served as they have a speakers academy there. And I served as the pro speaker coach for the academy for a few years. And I began to try to find, how else can I serve the people who need what I have? And I would invite you to think, as you're watching and listening to this, how can you serve others who need what you have? Because nobody else but you can deliver what you do in the way that you do. And through networking, of course, I've been able to travel across North America and around the world. Through Toastmasters, I've delivered keynotes on 5 continents. And to this day, I count it a privilege to share my expertise, my 30 plus years of knowledge, with individuals from groups like the YPO, the Young Presidents Organization, all the way to new and emerging speakers. And I count it a privilege to share what I've learned. And I keep doing that. And I do one more thing. I also collaborate with other professionals when I can, so we can serve together. Is also value in not doing it all by yourself. If there's a way you can serve with
Yes.
others, collaboration can be a powerful way to reach more people and really gain a perspective from someone else, and you can both grow and share more effectively in the process.
I love that. Collaboration. There can be a tendency to want to go it alone because we want maybe all the glory, all the recognition, or we want to protect our IP, and I can see that. I can understand that, but they're really, I love the African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And that's really where collaboration helps people. I just got the honor and privilege to put on an event with a friend of mine, and it was far more successful. I think both of us, if we had tried to do it ourselves, the whole was definitely greater than the sum of the parts, right?
Yeah,
If we
yeah.
each tried to do it ourselves, it would have been far less successful. So that's phenomenal. I want to share that you have a book. I have it on my bookshelf somewhere back there, but part of what I love about your book is challenging people to keep, I'll call it a story journal. You might have a different name for it,
Story folder. Keep a
but
story
you just spoke
folder.
about
Yeah,
a story folder,
yeah.
because everybody is uniquely equipped to give their own story, right? Everyone has unique stories that make them uniquely equipped to tell theirs.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about your book and some of your tips for people who maybe want to do more speaking.
Good. The book is called Deliver Unforgettable Presentations. That was also a collab, if you want to call it that, between myself, Darren LaCroix. He's from Las Vegas. He's also a Toastmasters world champion, also a CSP, which is Certified Speaking Professional with the National Speakers Association. And Patricia Fripp is our third co author. Patricia Fripp, in the world of speaking, is a living legend, the first woman president of the National Speakers Association. She must have close to 50 years of experience, and she was willing to join us to co-author the book, Deliver Unforgettable Presentations. It's a step-by-step guide to creating unforgettable presentations in a simple format with tools and techniques that work. It certainly is available on Amazon if anybody wants to get that. But the whole goal behind that was to take a 3-day workshop that we do and write a book about it. And people have been using the book. As a matter of fact, the Georgia National Speakers Association Georgia chapter uses the book as source material and a resource for their speakers academy. So we're honored that they would do that. But we invite you, if you want to be a better speaker, check it out. It's on Amazon, probably $20, but it's a resource that
Great book.
yeah. Well, thank you for the testimonial. I appreciate that very much, Audrey. Thank you.
So, what would you say if someone maybe
Marjorie.
they're not very well equipped in speaking? How do they get started? Where do they start? What do you recommend? Obviously, the book is a guide, but
Definitely.
give us some things to get us rolling.
Well, I'll tell you what helps me. I joined Toastmasters, like I said, by accident, not really, pursuing a goal. But I learned very quickly that a Toastmasters environment is a supportive environment where you can learn the skills of speaking, get to practice them, get evaluated, build community, and learn some of the tips, tools, and techniques to be an effective presenter. Another technique sounds almost mundane, but speak. Speak. Get a chance to speak. And Toastmasters has a part of the meeting called Table Topics. You speak for 1 to 2 minutes, but at least you're up there. You're speaking. You learn to speak extemporaneously. You practice the art of preparing a speech. They give you techniques for doing that. They give you products that actually fit into the workspace. So definitely Toastmasters. Definitely speak when you can in your community. Maybe you speak at a local Y or a Boys and Girls Club, in your house of worship, be it synagogue, mosque, church, whatever. But get every chance to speak. Speak to youth. If you get a chance to go to a school with the kids and do story time, read story time for the kids. Just get used to having your voice out there as a tool in service to other people. If you know someone who's a very good speaker, maybe you want to align with them, spend some time with them, have coffee with them, learn some tools and techniques, some ideas that they can share with you. But give yourself the opportunity to use the gift of speaking. And don't think I have to learn to be a better speaker yet. Just communicate. We speak every day over coffee, at lunch, and in the office.
I love that. And you're right about Toastmasters. I was a member of a chapter in grad school. We actually founded one from
Oh,
our
cool.
grad school in Willamette University. And the table topics was a great way to learn to speak off the
Yep.
cuff. If you go to networking, for example,
Yes. Yes.
a lot of people know they should be networking, and for one reason or another, they resist it. And sometimes it's because they maybe get tongue-tied when they're meeting people, or they don't know really how to converse. And so table topics would help with networking. Table topics would help if someone has a goal to be on a podcast, right? Because then they can dialogue like this and not be at a loss for words. So there's a lot of great things. I definitely second looking into Toastmasters. And obviously, like your book suggests, start keeping a story folder, because
Yes.
you never know where these amazing stories from your life will fit in as lessons or little anecdotes to support what you're talking about.
Yeah, we always say to mine your life for stories that you can tell, because most audiences don't need fantastic stories. One of my Mark Brown isms is this line: your story need not be remarkable, it just need be relatable. Your story need not be remarkable. It just needs to be relatable. And stories, we all love stories. We want to go to movies, we read books, we listen to podcasts. These are all stories. And our stories are just as valid as anyone else's. Don't look for the fantastic. Look for what connects to your audience, what they can relate to emotionally, and chances are you will lean into what you have to say.
I I couldn't agree more. Mark, I just love your journey. I love your humility and willingness to always share and pour into people around you in some of the ways that you've been poured into over the years. Where do you feel like your relentless pursuit comes from? What has helped you with the drive and developing the passion to stay on this journey, even through ups and downs and bumps along the road?
Cliche. That's a very poignant question. And the pursuit comes not so much for personal gain or glory, but I've had life experiences where I've had a brush with death. And I realize that if I can live my life to serve, to guide, and to help, and to be a positive influence on anyone, that's really what I pursue. I truly want to serve well, which is why you see in my mini bio I mentioned servant and guide and coach. I truly believe that I am at my best in service to others. So I'm relentlessly pursuing opportunities to do that. And of course, if I get income along the way, that's never a bad thing.
Right. Well, and it seems when we are serving others with the right intention of my priest back in COVID, and I had him as a guest a while back. He said, "We're here to grow and serve, and you can't grow without serving, and you can't serve without growing." And when you do those things with passion and purpose, at least in the marketplace, those things have value, and we do tend to see our income align when we are serving without necessarily an expectation back. So I really do appreciate the service mindedness that you bring to everything.
Well, thank you for that. And I know there are those who might say, well, listen, I pursue it. I want to make money. I will never discount that. I'm not going to put that down. But you asked for my perspective and my heart. And one of the other reasons why I pursue whatever I pursue relentlessly is because I really want to be, I really want to be the example to my children that shows that relentlessly pursuing what you believe in is worth your while. And to see my children do
Mhm.
that, I have a son who's in California who went to California with $500 because he had a dream to pursue. And it's been a few years, but he's
Mhm.
doing well. And just yesterday, I saw on social media he's opening his studio, his production program for music and editing and so on. It's in the music business, and he is pursuing that. And he will call me and tell me that I'm an example to him. I pursue relentlessly to get phone calls like that from my son, who sees the kind of man I've been, who knows what I've been through with my physical challenges. I have a daughter, my only daughter, Andreen, is an attorney in Virginia, and she was diagnosed years ago with multiple sclerosis and fibromyalgia. But you would never know it looking at her because she relentlessly pursues being the best that she can be in everything that she does. And I tell her continually that she's my inspiration, and seeing my older son have to pivot from an area of journalism that he was pursuing in college. Now he's got involved in human resources and education. He went out afterwards, got a second master's degree, got his SHRM SHRM certification, and he got married last year. And seeing my children live these lives, knowing that my life is an example to them, that's perhaps the greatest gift and blessing I have received in my relentless pursuit.
Absolutely. Really having a purpose and a passion bigger than oneself is such an incredible fuel on the journey. So, Mark, where can people find you? I know people are going to be really curious how to connect with you
Yes.
and maybe find your book and all that.
Well, on LinkedIn is always good. I am Mark Brown, CSP. On LinkedIn, you can find me there. My website is markbrownspeaks.com, and you can find out more about me there. I'm a little bit on Instagram and X, but mostly on LinkedIn, and you can get me on the website. Please feel free to reach out. Drop me a DM. Let's talk some more. Perhaps I can serve you and help you in your relentless pursuit. If you're a speaker, presenter, trainer, or workshop speaker, please let me know. And feel free to check out my profile to see what others have to say about my guidance and my coaching. Maybe we can work together. If not, just let's at least connect and have a conversation, and we can build our network together. That's it.
Mark is incredibly generous with his time, as you can see, and his book is an incredible resource if you are looking to speak more professionally, or even as an executive or someone who has to do a lot of speaking or networking broadly. So don't hesitate to pick that up. It's just a couple bucks on Amazon. It'll be 10x your investment. So thank you, Mark, so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Marjorie.
And sharing some of your wisdom.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Relentless Pursuit. And if you're looking to build more discipline, resilience, and results in your own work, that's exactly what Marjorie helps leaders and entrepreneurs do through coaching, speaking, and training. If today's conversation got you thinking differently about how you want to show up, you'll find links to connect with Marjorie in the show notes. Until next time, stay relentless.